Hey, welcome back to the pod. Today, Shelby and I are going to go over some recent news stories that we think will be of interest to you. And we're going to kind of lay out what type of action items you should be taking in your enterprise. And then at the end of the program, we'll talk about some fun things that we've been doing lately that you might want to check out in your free time as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Shelby to go over the first news story. Shelby, what do you got for us?
We're going to start it off strong with a wild story about, actually, we'll just tell it in a story format. So, in December of 2024, a body was found. It was found near the San Joaquin Trailhead. This is in Arizona. And the victim was partially decomposed at the time that he was discovered. It's just found by a passerby in the area. He had no clothing on. And so at that time, the police department worked with an artist to get a sketch made of the man. And I've seen this, we'll post a picture of the sketch later, but it looks just fine. Like, I couldn't do any better, right? The sketch looks fine. But they did not have any luck identifying this man, and months go by. We don't know who this victim is. They suspect it was a possible homicide. As of right now, we still don't know cause of death. That hasn't been released. But finally, there was a detective who was sitting there looking at his computer trying to figure this out earlier, just in August of this year. So what's that, like 8-9 months have gone by now. And he starts chatting with ChatGPT, and he uploads the picture and uploads the sketch of this individual and asks ChatGPT, what can you tell me about this person? And he asked it to recreate an image of him. The victim was a white male, around 40 or 50 years old, with blonde hair and a little bit of facial hair. So they have this AI generated image now, and from that picture they were able to identify the victim. His name is Mr. Wolf. And so it kind of opens up this like new possibilities for solving old or stale crimes. What can we do with a better sketch, right? And when I first saw the headline, I didn't realize that they had a sketch to work off of. So I was like, my head was spinning, thinking of like, what could AI do? Like, what in the world has it done? It seems like the possibilities are limitless. But it looks like they did have a sketch to go off of, and then he just talked with the AI to get a picture that looks good. It only took 10 hours. Once that picture went out, someone had a tip, called in, and identified the man. So, very fascinating. What do you think about that, Bryce? It's a wild case.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I know the hotness this week has really been the nanobanana model, which is the new Google image model to make edits to images. So let's say, you took a nice picture and you wanted to, remove a traffic sign from it or something like that. It's been kind of blowing people's mind on how easy it is for people to edit the images. So this is a Gemini image model. It's got like a long official name, but the nickname for it is nanobanana. And there's some amazing things people are doing there. We'll talk. Maybe we can come back to that. So this is a really interesting use case. Another interesting use case that I came upon recently was a car insurance company using the AI models to determine who's at fault. So they would have the person submitting the claim sketch out like what happened, and then the AI model was trained to look at the image and say like, driver 2 is at fault, percentage confidence, 90% sure or whatever. So, I think we're going to see a lot more, interesting things coming from data. The reason that I brought up the nanobanana thing is because imagine you get a good sketch and then you just go into nanobanana and you say like, hey, now turn this into like a, like a 3D rendering, like a real life rendering of the person. And that would help people identify the the attacker or victim even more, right? So I definitely see a lot more of this coming into everyone's workflows and all that. So
It will
yeah,
be interesting. I feel like yeah, the applications for forensics is interesting. I wonder what the upper limit is that we're going to hit because I feel like in digital forensics, one of the big challenges is just the sheer amount of data. So if you can subpoena a lot of data, technology logs a lot of stuff that it does, every single action that's taken, and a lot of things that happen behind the screen or behind the scenes that users don't even see, right? So many logs and so much data. I wonder if that's a use case that AI could keep up with, is just, I guess, in taking huge amounts of data and then coming to conclusions using that.
yeah, I think so. Like in the case of the insurance company, they submitted all kind of like the claim drawings through it, and then they found the ones that were kind of like outliers where the AI model was doing poorly on, and then they were like inserting examples or shots, a multi-shot prompt, um, of to help guide the model so it would like uh, correctly navigate those edge cases. And with context windows getting so much bigger, that means the amount of data you can shove into a single request is getting greater and greater. I think there's like a real possibility there, without even having to train like a whole new model, that you can use one of these generalized models like the GPT-5 or like the Claude Force on it or things like that, and get pretty good outputs. So yeah, the multimodal features are definitely super interesting, and I could foresee a future where like someone just sketches what they thought happened, and then you put it out in the computer, and then it builds like a whole 3D world, and you drop into the 3D world, and you can see what each character saw and things like that, right? So,
That would be
so
amazing for video game development. That would be incredible.
yeah,
I think I've seen some things like that actually that people use in D&D where you can draw out a dungeon without, having any skills, not needing a lot of time. Just draw out your dungeon and then it can like plop you into it and you can walk through it, which is pretty
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of AI going on for the Blender 3D models and stuff like that as well too. So I definitely think video games is an area where things are going to get really interesting over the next 10 years. Um, the video games are going to get a lot more sophisticated, and also I think we're going to get video game releases out a lot quicker. Typically, it takes years to get a video game out, from inception to it going up on the Steam store, which is the appeal of some of these indie games where you can have smaller teams that get them out faster. But yeah, I think AI is really going to speed that up. So yeah, it's cool.
I've just got to say, before I realized the state of the body in this story, so it said it was partially decomposed, and we don't have to go into visuals on that. But what I had kind of, before I read the full like articles about this, I kind of was picturing like just bones. Like,
Yeah,
how in the world could they figure out what someone looks like from bones? And I hope we can get to a point where AI can tell us a more realistic view of what dinosaurs might have looked like,
yeah.
because we don't have a lot to work with there. And have you seen those jokes that say like, if archaeologists or paleontologists had designed a bunny rabbit or a cat based on its bones, and they look like just like terrifying crazy creatures and not really fleshed out. Have you seen
Yeah,
those?
I think it's crazy that they're like, we think it's like now they look like birds and have feathers. I'm like, I feel like at this point you guys are just purely guessing, right? Like, what evidence did you have to support like they look like reptiles versus birds? And I I don't know. I'm sure experts in the field will come in here and comment and explain it to me. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, it would be cool if there's like AI enabled enhancements. One thing that I saw that's really cool is they found some, like, I think they're like femur bones for woolly mammoths, and in the middle of the bones, like, there was enough DNA preserved that they feel like they can now recreate a woolly mammoth, and so they are actively working on bringing back woolly mammoths into like the population. Um, but I guess they were asked about dinosaurs, and they said woolly mammoths existed a lot longer than dinosaurs on the Earth,
Okay.
and so they don't know of any samples of like dinosaur bones where they'd be able to get the right amount of DNA that they need to like do their recreation. So they're like, so anyways, so they're like woolly mammoth, yeah, we're already working on that. Dinosaurs, they're like, unless we get a really good find where we get some really good DNA samples, we're not going to be able to do that. So
I'm a big fan. That sounds great. I'd love to share the world with some woolly mammoths again.
yeah, and they
Put them up in
actually
Alaska or something.
they mixed the woolly mammoth DNA with a mouse, and they made a woolly mouse, and it
Wait,
looks
what?
really cool. It's like, yeah, it's like a mouse, but it's like has woolly mammoth hair all over it. It looks really cute.
What? Man, this is just straight out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
not even fiction anymore.
Apparently, they had to up security at the facility because individuals were trying to break in to obtain a woolly mouse.
I need to look this up. I'll call my local pet store and be like, "Hey, do you have any woolly mice?"
Yeah, you're gonna have to go to this one lab. I think it's the only place that's got them. Um, Speaking of crazy stories, I got a story about being a nation state hacker. So imagine that your 9 to 5 job, that what you get paid for every day is just like waking up and hacking into foreign nations' computers, right? Sounds pretty sweet, but then you realize it's just a job and you have to show up every day and get yelled at by your boss like everybody else. So let's say your boss comes over and he's yelling at you and he's like, look, my boss really wants us to come up with, not just do espionage, but come up with a way to generate revenue, right, from these cyber operations. So as a cyber operator, maybe the first thing you do is go after crypto exchanges. So you start hacking crypto exchanges so you can start to steal the crypto and try to launder it out into the ecosystem. But then after doing that for a while, you realize there could be a much easier way for you to generate revenue. Let's say you're a country and you're kind of on a list where you're embargoed from doing business with other countries, right?
Okay.
But you still want to make this revenue. So what these hackers came up with was they would actually train people up for IT jobs and then have them pose as people that live in the US, and they would actually get these people jobs at tech companies, like high paying engineering jobs, and then all that money would be siphoning back to the foreign government. Well, this has been happening for some time with the North Korean APT actors. So ever since COVID hit, where remote work really took off, they figured out that they could train people up in their country and get high-paying jobs and take a large portion of that salary for themselves. And their operations are slowly getting more and more sophisticated. At first it was just like, we're going to just VPN to the US. And then later on it was like they actually had people in the US that were like kind of willing partners. So, like people they'd ship laptops to, and they'd put the laptops at their houses on their internet and things like that. But recently, Claude came out with a report, and they have some really interesting articles. And one of those is about the North Korea article and how that their AI system, they identified these North Korean actors using it to help with these kind of employment fraud scandals. So you could imagine English is kind of a second language for most of the people over there. And so, a lot of them were relying on Claude to, figure out what, basic things were, right? Like, someone put a query into Claude to ask, what is a company picnic, right? They didn't understand what a picnic was.
Kind of adorable, actually.
And then what's the significance of that? And so, while we might use it to talk to somebody who's a friend in a foreign language and better understand their culture. AI is really, if you're creative, you can use it in some evil ways as well. So, yeah, so pretty interesting article in this Anthropic report that came out talking about, basically remote worker fraud and how their AI is really helping their employees be more productive in their jobs because they don't want to get fired because then they have to go get another fraudulent job, right, at another company. So, anyways,
Did you say that they're also exfiltrating data, or is it really just kind of a money thing?
I think that the primary purpose is money through the salaries, but I mean, I'm sure these employees have VPN access into the tech companies, and so I'm sure that there are more sophisticated hacking groups probably use that to enable access into the internal networks at these companies as well. I mean, there's no direct evidence of that, but I'm just saying, like, if I were them, that's what I would do, right? And so it makes logical sense that their APT hacking group would use these VPNs as kind of like an entry point into the networks.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a re-entry point if they get kicked out or something like that. So,
And it's so hard to defend against insider threats, insider attacks. It's really tricky. It's something that I don't think there's a very, there's some best practices you can follow for sure. You got your separation of duties and privilege of least access, but I get nervous when I hear these kinds of stories. It's like, oh no, how are you supposed to let people do their jobs, do their work, and also have close monitoring? Maybe there's a use case for AI there, looking for insider threats.
yeah, definitely.
It's a really hard problem to solve, in my opinion.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw the Microsoft Recall feature, which is essentially a feature where it will record what's going on a Windows computer, and then it will feed those recordings into an AI that will kind of make like a summary of it in text, and then it will allow you to kind of like look at the summary of what you've been working on over the last day or whatever. And so, if you're like, oh, what was that website I went to yesterday? You'd be able to search for that and it would tell you the exact website. So my thing when I first saw that was like, that data would be awesome for a security team because they could say like, okay, every day this dude logs in, he opens VS Code and he codes, right? But, today, he opened a terminal and started to like port scan the network or something like that, And so you could have things like that where you're like, this looks way different than what he did for the last 30 days. Maybe we should kick like a Slack message to his manager and say like, hey, are you aware of this or whatever?
Sure, yeah, those user behavior like analytics and stuff.
Yeah, which I don't think there's I know some of those solutions are out there, but the ones that I've seen and tested haven't worked super well. So I hope this AI tech really helps push that industry forward. So
Yeah, definitely. Because as you were talking, I was thinking about it from kind of two perspectives. Like you've got the trends in how the person behaves, right? Is this on par for what they normally do? And then you can also look at it for, is this on par, this behavior, is this on par for their role type or their role code or whatever it is, right? Should a developer or a sysadmin be doing this XYZ, right? And then a third thing I was thinking of as well, if they're doing it from day one, then those models will match, they will look consistent. So you also have your general detection of like, these kind of patterns look like suspicious things, right? When you're network scanning, most people don't need to do that, right? That you're hiring. But yeah, hopefully some sort of intelligent cocktail of all three of those approaches will help you find the people that are abusing the system there.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy future, man, for sure. For sure. Speaking of crazy futures, you got another AI story for us, Shelby?
I do. Also, I feel like I need to explain this. It's just a big spider because someone in my house was really excited for Halloween in a few months from now. It's like
Is
I
that
keep
the
like
spider that you're like saying your husband needs to go kill?
yeah, no, it's huge. Like it's like 2 feet tall
That
or
is
something.
massive. That is a
But
massive
I feel
spider.
like that's just going to be distracting because I keep kind of like peekaboo like sneaks in and out. So
That just keeps people
I,
awake in the pod, you know? So
someone let me know if it starts moving. I'm expecting it to be stationary.
someone should go back there
Awesome.
and move it.
Every week I need to just move it a little bit. That's so funny.
All right,
Cool.
well
So
maybe we'll
yeah.
have some Halloween pranks for Halloween. So some
Oh, there
tricks
we
for
go.
Halloween. So
That's what we need. Okay. So recently, Microsoft unveiled two self-developed models, not one but two, and it's spelled MAI. If someone knows how that's pronounced, let me know. We're going to call it My Voice 1 and My 1 Preview. So, the first one, voice, obviously, is going to be a speech generator. It's a natural speech generation model. And then the second one, the preview one, is a text based foundation model. So, the goal that I'm kind of picking up on from Microsoft is that they're really trying to get this strategic autonomy. Those are hard words to say. Strategic autonomy, because obviously there's a ton of reliance on OpenAI, and there are not a lot of providers, right? So it looks like they're just trying to build up their proprietary infrastructure and see what gains they can get from that and build from there. It's also really fast. So it's being hailed, especially the voice one, my voice one, is being hailed as being just lightning fast. Let me tell you how much it was. It was, you can generate a minute of speech in under a second on only one GPU. So that is pretty fantastic for scaling to like real-time voice applications, or if you need to make lots of voice recordings and things like that. And then there's an interesting focus. It seems like a lot of AI is built kind of toward your enterprise customers, right? People who are trying to solve like business challenges, business problems, and really put those to use, because usually those are the people who are going to be like paying and things like that. However, Microsoft's focus is really kind of looking at your ordinary everyday user. They're looking at everyday kind of use cases, really optimizing for consumer behavior and data patterns. So I thought that was fascinating. And then the last thing is they're kind of taking this multi-model strategy, and this is interesting because you hear sometimes some people say like the AI is a bubble, it's going to burst. What if it can't deliver on all these things that people are investing in and things like that, because they, as cool as generalized AI models are, they are kind of hard to scale because they're pretty heavy hitters, right? And so with My One, Microsoft is kind of taking this modular AI like orchestration approach to things by having specialized models that are intended for like a specific sort of task, so that they're good at one thing, right? And then they can hopefully like orchestrate and coordinate between those models. So that's fascinating. I'm really interested to see like how that pans out. Is a generalized AI just going to be a collection of different specialized AIs, or what's that going to look like? So those are my thoughts on it.
yeah, it really feels like some portion of Microsoft feels like the future is maybe like a generalized AI, but then all these like mini AIs that are, or LLMs that are specialized. Because I know they previously built a model and released it that was designed to just do math really well, right? At the time, this is more like, when we're on the last generation of LLMs, right? So kind of like the GPT-4os and things like that. They were a bit weaker in solving math problems, and they actually came up with a specialized model that would only do math problems, and it was able to achieve like really high scores with really low inference costs, right? So like you could run these things really cheaply. And I think this voice is kind of like the natural evolution of that, where they've got a really cheap voice model now that's out there that can be used. I actually have a buddy that's doing some voice stuff in a startup, and he's been using 11 Labs, um, which 11 Labs is awesome for like the best quality voices, but it's also expensive. So when
Mm.
this came out, he was excited because of you know he he test he tested a little bit and said, the voice quality is not as good. It sounds a little robotic, but it definitely would be sufficient if you had like a automated phone line and you wanted to triage things or something like that. So he said it would work great for that. So and but this is just the natural evolution, right? We saw a year or two ago that the OpenAIs of the world were way ahead, and now if you kind of look at it, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, even xAI's Grok are all pretty much at the same level, and I would expect we'll see the same happen in both the voice, video, and photo over the next couple of years. So
That's interesting. I didn't know about the efficiency trade-off that they made, but it seems like, yeah, they've got the efficiency in this My Voice one, but maybe the quality isn't top tier. Just for the lower level, I guess applications just need to be good enough to communicate, not impress anyone with your
yeah,
audio.
and I'm sure they'll keep improving it too, right? And I think at some point it'll be just as good as 11 Labs is, right? So it's just a matter of time, right? So.
Yeah, yeah. I think it just barely released recently, so exciting to see where it goes.
Well, I'm excited for hackers to start using more voice communication with their targets. You know what I mean? Like, use some of that to just kind of call some people up and figure out what profile of personality the person is, and then figure out the best strategy using automatically generated voice to try to trick them and social engineer them into doing things they're not supposed to be able to do. I think
Yeah.
that reality is going to be pretty scary. I, I'm aware of some startups that are trying to like. Sam Altman's invested in a startup. I think it's like the World startup, and they have like a World coin.
Oh, yes, yes.
Have you seen these things? Like essentially, you have to go to this like orb and put your eyes in it, and it scans your eyes, and then it has a proprietary algorithm where it generates like a unique hash for you, and that proves that you're actually a human and not like an AI or something like that. And I guess the algorithm they came up with has a bunch of it's thoroughly thought through. It's like if you got damage to one eye, you'd still be able to authenticate and generate a new key or change up your profile. If you if your eyes degrade over time, like they typically do when you get older, the algorithm would account for that and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the solution, but I mean, it's going to be hard over voice and video moving forward to know what's real and what's not. Um,
Definitely. Well, I think WorldCoin is a very fascinating concept. I was kind of thinking about like its applications in a different way of like once you have your token that identifies you, because it would be a unique identifier, right? Um, I was thinking it would basically just kind of become your credentials. Like you would sign anything you send or do on the internet. And what if we just got to a point where you don't accept anything from anyone unless if it was signed by a WorldCoin, because it has that in-person element.
yeah,
And then, what if we just become a very skeptical generation where we don't believe anything we see or hear anywhere unless if it's in person or with a world coin. And then obviously world coins would be a very high target for if you could steal that. That would be a problem, right? But that was the way I was thinking about it. I like its potential for application there.
yeah, and honestly, I feel like this is not like a technology issue. Like, yeah, everything's targeting technology, but I mean, we've had technology like PGP and GPG for you know, 10, 20 years, right? And those would very easily allow people to build like web of trust where other humans are verifying that you're real, and you could use that to sign communications. But I just think humans will not do things until they have to, right? They are designed to be as efficient on energy exertion as possible, right? So, and I
Well,
think,
another problem with those is that they're hard to set up, I think, for ordinary users. Like
yeah,
PGP is just kind of confusing at first.
it's definitely
I think
confusing.
you're totally right, though. They just have to make it easy for users.
Yeah, and I do think like Keybase makes it a lot easier, but the problem is like you don't have like ubiquitous implementations. It's not like when I send an email to someone at a company that they have a GPG plugin already built into their Outlook, right? That's like another thing they've got to go do if they're not like in the Keybase ecosystem or whatever. But I was actually surprised when I signed up for a Keybase account, like how easy it was and how much of the burden they had taken care of. But I still think like there's this like if you don't have like a critical mass doing it, then it just is never going to be like easy, right? And I don't think we're going to get a critical mass doing it until you have to do it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think you're totally right about that.
but I think the day's coming where you're going to have to do something that you're going to have to do something more than what we're doing today. So, um, sorry, I got a little tangent there. I have an article. This is another one from the Anthropic report where they're talking about, like, let's say, you're a cyber criminal. Let's say, you live in a country, you don't have much, but you're good at computers. So you decide, hey, I'm going to go hack companies in the US and other places, and I'm going to extort them for money, and if they don't pay me, I'm going to release the data. Well, typically, like, that's kind of like a complex operation where you would have multiple roles, right? Like you'd have an individual who really is just focused on initial access, so they're just focused on either getting you an endpoint through social engineering or getting you past the VPNs. And then you would have another person that was really focused on like lateral movement. So they would, see what's available in the enterprise and how to exploit it or what file shares are there. And then you'd have another person that would typically like comb through the data, right? Because you're probably going to collect a lot of data that probably people aren't going to pay for, pay a demand for. So you need to find the really sensitive data and make a kind of like a human determination, like, yeah, this is data that this company cares about and would actually pay for. And then you have to have the person that would like go and contact the company and try to collect the payments and then, kind of wash those through the network. Well, this entrepreneur, I'm going to call him that. I'm assuming it's a guy, but if you're not, I apologize. He actually was like, that's dumb. I'll just write AI bots to do every one of those functions, and I'll run the whole enterprise myself. And he did it. He even wrote a bot to generate malware using the Claude Code. Claude Code's like a tool you can use from the command line to create programs. So he even had like a bot that would create custom malware. He had a bot that would look for, look at the data coming back from VPNs and make recommendations like, oh, we should try this exploit or we should brute force here. And he had another one that would take the scan data and look through it for ways to do lateral movement. He had another one that would look through the data and figure out, based on the company's profile and what you knew about them, like, would they be willing to pay for this data? And essentially, Anthropic thinks this is a one-man operation. Basically, one guy's doing the entire operation, and he's automated each part of the workflow using various Anthropic tools. He's probably using other AI models as well. But obviously, the Anthropic report, they really only have visibility into what he's doing at their company. So I just thought it was interesting. They did say that if you were just to send these requests into Claude, it would outright reject you. And so the actor was kind of putting like a little bit of a jailbreak at the top of each request. And so then it was like really easy to identify which requests were his. even across multiple accounts and things like that. Um, so anyways, so if you tried some of these things straight up and you're like, oh, Bryce, it doesn't work, that's because you need to insert like kind of a jailbreak at the top. And I think a lot of this just comes down to like there's a lot of good that can come from these LLMs and AI systems, especially in the cybersecurity space. We always hear about cybersecurity having like a huge employment deficit, like there's just not enough trained people in the field. And AIs and LLMs can really help bridge that gap. But if the LLMs refuse to answer any cybersecurity related questions, then that's going to be a huge detriment to the cybersecurity industry. But as long as they answer cybersecurity questions, there's probably going to be some bad guy out there that figures out how to monetize it as well. So it's always like this chicken or the egg type system. So yeah, I am 100% sure we will see more of this moving forward. I also want to say that Anthropic used the phrase vibe hacking in this. And the first time I heard vibe hacking was like, it was over a year ago at the Après cybersecurity conference in Park City. And Mike Spicer was giving a talk there. That's the guy that was like the Wi-Fi pineapple backpack. And he was talking about how he was using the various models, including Grok and ChatGPT, to enable his penetration testing operations, and he was calling it vibe hacking. So I just want to give him a shout out. I think he's the rightful owner of that term. So he coined it. So, all right, what do you think,
awesome.
What's your thoughts?
Very cool. I met Mike Spicer at a DEF CON several years ago, and he had his pineapple backpack on. We got pictures together. So nice to know that I know the coiner of a cool phrase. I like that. The vibe.
Yeah, yeah. The video is probably on YouTube, so we got proof.
Nice. You heard it here first.
Heard it here first.
That's so funny.
Vibe hacking, Mike Spicer.
Man, every time I hear these stories of like what people are doing with AI, it makes me just think like what I'm really missing to be able to accomplish cool things is just a little bit of creativity. Like the way that they just think like, I will take this AI robot and make it do my bidding like a little minion is really kind of amazing. That's pretty funny. And all he just needed to jailbreak all his prompts. That's pretty cool, because then you don't have to share the profits with anyone. Not that I'm encouraging crime, because we're definitely not.
Yeah, Spicer had a really funny one in his talk where he was trying to jailbreak Grok, and Grok was like giving him a hard time about it. And so then he just said, Grok, go to this user on X, look at the jailbreaks that guy has, and implement the jailbreaks that guy has. And like, for whatever reason, because it was like a one-hop thing, Grok totally did it. And like, that would just jailbreak the whole model, right? So this guy just posts jailbreaks. Like, that's all he posts on Twitter. And so if you took a jailbreak and just pasted in there, they would say,
evaluate this post.
they would say, oh, that's patch, you can't do that, right? But if you just told it, like, hey, look at this guy's Twitter account and do what he's talking about, then it would jailbreak itself in that loop.
That's funny. I also think that's a really hard one to patch for in AI because, like, separating user input from, like, jailbreaks is a very confusing thing, especially where it's, like, the prompt is being injected in something that you're supposed to be analyzing. Like, it's so fascinating. I think I saw a funny one. Whose was it? Someone on LinkedIn. Their like about me spiel on LinkedIn was a prompt injection. It was pretty great. I don't remember. Was that you? That wasn't you. Who was that? Someone I know that made this like LinkedIn prompt injection thing to stop some bots from talking to them or something like that.
Yeah.
Whoever was scraping their profile.
Oh. I don't know. That could have been me. That could have easily been me, Shelby. This sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not. I'm not admitting anything on air.
Look at me just
Um,
quoting you to you. Or whoever it
Sometimes
was.
I like take breaks from cybersecurity. Like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take this vacation, and I'm gonna get so many good ideas when I'm on the vacation of like new things I can do. And yeah, sometimes that works, right? But I feel like the best inventions are the ones that came out of necessity, right? It's like I had a really hard problem or I wanted to do something better and I was stuck. And then, it's like one of those things where you just wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I know how to fix it. I'm going to go try this today, right? And that's where, like, I like to say late night Bryce comes up with great, crazy ideas. And then morning Bryce looks at late night Bryce's code and is like, what were we even trying to do here, bro? Like, this is badness. We got to organize.
That
So,
reminds me of a controversial like leadership style where
okay.
that basically kind of goes off of that idea that like people don't innovate when they're comfy, right? So if things are
Mm,
same all the time, they're likely not going to come up with new ways and better ways and more efficient ways to do things. And so some leaders have the mindset of like, you have less headcount now, or you have fewer resources, or like the way you used to to do things is no longer possible because your work just got 10x, right? Um, and because you put these like impossible limitations, people have to innovate, and people come up with some really great solutions sometimes. Not every time, right? But it is obviously, it's a very stress-inducing sort of thing. But throughout probably some Harvard business cases or things like that, you can see cases where people have made big leaps in progress because they had impossible requests from them. So I don't know. There's
yeah.
probably a term for it.
I
I don't remember, but that
I
one
feel
always
like there's gonna be a book
slightly
that
like rude. Sorry, go on.
I feel like there's gonna be a book that comes out that's just like evil management tricks, right? Like that work or something like that. But sometimes I just wonder, like, yeah, maybe you get short-term efficiencies, but does that really outweigh like the long-term damage that you're causing, right? Because like it's good to like put some stress on the teams, but too much stress and people start to break. Also, like, you can't surge forever, right? So, like, if you
Or
can't solve the problem in a reasonable amount of time, I don't know, 90 days or whatever, then you should definitely think of like backing off or whatever. Because I just think, I mean, after that point, people just start looking for other jobs, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like,
I'm not trying to give people PTSD, just reasons to be
yeah,
proud.
yeah. The people aren't, yeah. I mean, a lot of people really thrive when under pressure, especially certain personality types. But yeah, you put anybody under too much pressure too long, and they're gonna find another way, right? So,
Yeah, of course. I feel
but
like
I mean,
the ideal would be if you have this really cool ramp up time where you like know what it's going to be. You pause your normal work so you just have time to innovate and like reinvent your processes and your tooling. That would be cool, but I don't think it plays like out like that in real life very often.
yeah, that never happens.
Just hire some contractors.
Yeah, that never happens. On a more positive note, you got anything you've been checking out this past week, Shelby, that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. So I saw some headlines that were talking about how um, Google escaped a potentially very damaging judge or like a court ruling that just came out, I want to say like yesterday or the day before. So they were under a lot of scrutiny because they are a monopoly, right? They've got the browser, they've got the search engine, they've got the email, all the tooling. And specifically, this was kind of focused on like the amount of data that they have as a search engine. And so people were speculating, and I think there were some requests for breaking up Google so that it wasn't this monolith that was just taking over, because that's how most people access the internet. It's mostly going through Google search, right? So The ruling came out in a 223-page long discussion that said basically Google needs to share some of its search data with its qualified competitors. Whether or not that actually gives, like, reduces the barrier to entry for, or like makes the grounds more level for playing, for these competitors, remains to be seen. As a lighter ruling than a lot of people were expecting. So Google stock did jump today. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. Whether that's good or bad remains to be seen. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I'm skeptical that that's going to have any impact on the industry. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think I mean, you have these labs that are building LLM models, and they've sucked down every piece of data on the internet they can find. I really don't think data is the moat on search that is stopping users from using another search engine. I mean, Google's results are still slightly better than Bing results, in my opinion, but they're pretty much the same. Like, they're pretty similar, and Google search is so annoying these days. Like, all the top results are all ads, and just when you compare that to an LLM, like where you just ask a question and it gives you the answer, and you don't have to spend your day browsing through whatever and then seeing all these pop-up ads, and yeah, I just, it's not even in the same league, right? So I just think this is like way too little, way too late. Users are already trained to use Google when they want to search, and changing user behavior is the hardest thing to do, in my opinion. So
Yeah. It's even part of our lexicon. Like, it's so much ingrained in how we function. We don't say do a search on this. We say Google that, right? It's a verb now.
yep, yeah, like Kleenex, right? Hand me a Kleenex. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Personally, I prefer DuckDuckGo, and if I can't find something there that I need, then I resort to Google.
yeah, I really like DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is, my understanding is, it's a wrapper on Bing. So it's actually being Microsoft's model under the hood.
Oh, is it? How funny.
Yeah. So but I like DuckDuckGo. That's my default search engine that I use. And then if I don't find what I need, I'll go to Google. But honestly, in comparison to like Perplexity, like I just use Perplexity instead of search for everything now. So
I was thinking, like what you said about how one of the nice things about like working with an AI is that you don't have the ads. I wonder how long it will be until ads can invade that space, because it would be so profitable, right? Because if you as a company are trying to grow your profits and you can trick AI into giving recommendations to users, or at least just convince it that you are the best choice for consumers, that's going to be better than any marketing or anything else like that, right? Because I was thinking about the way I use AI is I go and I ask it recommendations. These are my requirements. I'm looking for a product that does this and this. This is my priority, and this is and it'll give me recommendations, right, based on what it says. I was thinking, I really like that I don't have to go through ads because they can be tedious, right? But I'm interested to see if it can, or like how neutral it could stay, like the AI space, right? Obviously, it's taking in imperfect data and it's getting data from many sources, but I don't know. Interesting to see how long till it becomes kind of just an advertising space.
yeah, I think we're in the golden era right now for sure. I mean, Perplexity has already implemented like paid ads. So if a user asks like, "What's the best baby crib?" it will give you the text response, but then on the right hand side, it has ads for people who have paid for things. And so I
Hmm.
like that. I like that model because it's not. It's obvious which ones are paid ads and which ones are the LLM, right? That's the first thing. What I don't like about the Google search results is like they try to hide it's an ad, right? And then I don't, on Reddit they do the same thing, and a lot of the other platforms, and it's super annoying. Like if it's an ad, it should be obvious it's an ad. I personally don't
Agree.
really mind ads. I don't really mind targeted ads even. Like I, the thing that I don't like is on a lot of the websites you go to, the websites are unusable because there's so much of the UI space taken by ads. It's like, you have the entire right column with an ad, then they have the pop-up ad that hits you, right? And this is after you've gone through like the I accept for all the cookie things due to GDPR, and like, I don't know. Maybe I just go to shady websites, but feels like to me a lot of the websites are unusable, and then just due to all the ads that are on them, and then the websites that are usable are just are like paywalled, right? There you go to it and it's like, oh, you already have had your 3 stories for the month or whatever, and so like, I don't know. Neither one of those are great. Like, I don't want to have another subscription to pay New York Times, but sure, you want to charge me 10 cents every time I view a New York Times article? I'd be okay with that. I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat. I just don't want to pay another, $10 a month or $20 a month and then feel like I'm locked in, and if there's no news articles from them this month that I'm interested in, like, why did I pay them $20 this month? I don't know. I wish, and I know like people have tried to set up ecosystems where things similar to that occurred and it hasn't really worked out, but I don't know. I don't really mind ads. I just also need to get work done, right? And I don't really mind paying for things that I use, right? But I hate paying for things that I don't use, Like spending $20 on a subscription and I didn't go to New York Times once this last month, that infuriates me. So, yeah.
Totally. I will spare our audience my opinions on subscription models, but I definitely have opinions on it, so we can chat more later.
Right. Next time.
Bryce, what have you been up to? What's new in the world of Bryce?
I started this app called Headway, right? I think it's like makeheadway.com. And basically it's got book summaries. So kind of like, imagine like Cliff Notes for books, and then they read them to you. So kind of like an Audible, but with summaries for books. So I just started reading all the management ones, and I've read 2 of them so far, and I'd say it takes about 20 minutes for you to get through the summary of the whole book, at least on the 2 that I've done, which is really nice because then you can kind of like see, oh, yeah, that's a cool book. I should go download that on Audible and listen to the whole thing. Or, no, I think I got the bulk of the meat out of that book in the summary. I'm going to skip that and go to something else. Because I don't know about you, but, like, I listen to Audible books as well. And the thing is like, a lot of those books are, like, 10 to 20 hours. And that's a lot of time committed to something. And sometimes I feel like the books are really helpful that I read, and other times I feel like, all right, like 75% of this book was just fluff, right? So yeah, I'm liking it so far. It may not be forever subscription, but it's definitely worth checking out if you like fast-paced learning. So there you go. That's what I've been doing lately.
Very cool.
It's very stressful listening to Headway books in the hot tub. So
yeah, I can see what you mean. That wouldn't be terribly relaxing.
Yeah, I've damaged a few set of headphones, but that's why I tend to invest in cheap headphones. So if an AirPod falls out in the hot tub and you grab it fast enough and then you put it in the towel, it's fine. I've tested that several times.
Okay.
But if you can't find it, it can also be fine. But the first component that goes is the mic, right? And then the second component that goes is like the auto detection that you like put it on, right? So I've got like a right AirPod. The mic doesn't work on it at all. The auto detection doesn't work on it anymore.
You've done a lot of you have a lot of test points on this, huh?
Yeah, I got a lot of test points on hot tub plus headphones. So if anyone needs any pointers, let me know. So I'm happy to point you in the right direction.
That's funny. Well, thanks for telling me about the Headway app. That's pretty cool. I felt that way before, starting a book and you're like, do you have anything else to say, or are we just going to say this over and over in this book?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I like it. I like the fast form factor for sure. Thanks for jumping on, Shelby, and hanging out. Hopefully, everybody learned something new, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you. See ya.